Hey everybody, I'm here today to show you how to fix hardwood floor scratches. I'll be showing you how to fix a rather large scratched area just like that, and I'll also be showing you how to fix a smaller scratch just like this, and you can also apply this method to a scratch that's even smaller. Now this is some hardwood floor that was redone a while ago, and over the years it's developed quite a few scratches. It is a high traffic area, so there are a few spots in the room that are like this because, you know, we've walked through with our shoes many times, and then just some smaller scratches from moving furniture and stuff like that. So it's very simple. You just need a few things. Now, what you need is some stain that sort of matches the floor color. And I say sort of matches the floor color because if it doesn't completely perfectly match, it's probably still going to look 50 times better than a scratched area or a scratch on the floor. Luckily for me, I still have the stain that I used when I redid the floors. When I refinished them. You're also going to need some polyurethane, which is like just a clear coat on top of it. You're going to need a rag that you can use to apply the stain. You're going to need a paintbrush that you can use to apply the polyurethane. And I would highly recommend gloves, or at least one glove, so that you can, use it when you're applying the stain, because what you don't want is to get your hands full of stain, because it's going to take a long time and a lot of effort to get out. All right, let's get right to it. So very simply, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to put the glove on first. Okay, and I always put the glove on first just because it ensures that I'm going to keep this hand free and clear of any stain. Now I'm going to bring the stain into the camera's view. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start off by working on this little scratch over here. Now there are lots of scratches in this room, but right now we're going to focus on this one scratch right here. Hopefully you can see that on camera, that one scratch right there. What you want to do is you want to take your rag and you just need a little corner of it. You don't need, you're not redoing the whole floor, so you just need a little corner. You don't need the entire thing. You can even just, what I do is when I'm done using this, I just cut off the corner that I used, and you still have a very usable rag for the rest of it. All right, so I'm just going to take this corner. You want to just get some stain on it. Now, you don't need a lot. Now, this stain is a little bit sludgy because it was actually frozen and I just defrosted it. I wouldn't recommend this, but if this is the case, you're still going to get usable stain. It looks a little sludgy, so if I was doing the whole room, I wouldn't be able to use this, but because I'm only doing a few small areas, I can use it. As you can see, I just have just a bit of stain on there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this stain, and I'm just going to rub it over top of the scratch. Check that out. Look at that. I rubbed it over the scratch. Look at that. The scratch is gone. It's amazing. Now you can see there's a little bit of excess stain. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the other end, which is the dry end, and I'm just going to give it one quick pass. Just like that. Okay? Get rid of the excess stain. Now as you can see, it doesn't look perfect by any means, but my eyes right now are about 4 or 5 feet away from that mark, and I can barely notice it. If I was standing up, I would not be able to notice it at all. Now what I'm going to do next, I might get chewed up in the comments for this. But, a lot of people will recommend leaving this for 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours to dry. But in my experience, you can just apply the polyurethane over top of this. And I'll tell you why there's a huge benefit to this. If I come back in 4 hours from now, because the stain has pretty much gotten rid of the scratch, I'm not going to be able to find it, and I'm going to be applying polyurethane everywhere. But since I know where that little scratch was right there, I'm going to take my paintbrush. I'm just going to dip it in polyurethane. You just need a little bit, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go over that area with the polyurethane. When it dries, it's going to dry nice and clear, and it's going to look nice and smooth. Now, like I said, I like to feather it out a bit so it blends in with the rest of the floor, because what you don't want is this super shiny spot and then a dull exterior. So I blend it out a bit. Now, you're going to let that sit, and don't step on it, don't touch it, but let it sit for as many hours as it needs to dry. You're going to check out the container of polyurethane. I like to just leave it for like 24 hours. I just don't step on it for 24 hours. And what you'll be left with is this spot that you pretty much won't notice. Now take a look over here. This is a decently sized area that has been scratched up. Now what I'm going to do is I'm basically going to be doing the same thing. So I'm going to be taking my glove. Let's put on the rubber glove. I wouldn't recommend using a glove that's like cloth because it's just going to absorb the stain and still get your hands dirty. Use something like this that won't absorb anything. So I'm going to take my stain. I'm going to use the end of the cloth that I had used, that I had applied the stain with previously. Just dip it in your stain, get a decent amount on it. Let's move this to the side. See, I got some stain on the glove, and if I didn't have this glove on, that stain would be on my finger, and I would be scrubbing that for a long time to get it out. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this stain, we're going to rub it on the affected area. Check that out. Now what I like to do is sometimes I'll give it a second pass. So I'm just dipping the rag in the stain again, and we'll just go over it one more time, just like that. As you can see, we're putting quite a bit of excess stain on there. There's no worries. You can go a little bit wider with the stain as long as you wipe it up. So I put the stain. We'll get that scratch right there too. This area right here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm taking this and we're going to wipe it up. And you want it, like, you don't want this spot to be significantly darker, so you want to wipe it up. Now this is an interesting grain, so it might be a little bit darker because of the way that the grain is. You can see, and I'll show you why in just a moment, okay? I'll take off the glove so it's easier to see where I'm pointing. What you can see is the little grains right there, they absorb a lot more stain. So that's why this area is a little bit darker, because of those marks. Now, what I'm going to do next is, once again, take the polyurethane right here, aka poly, we like to call it, and just brush it on nicely, okay? And like I said, feather it out. Now, what you don't want to do, make sure, this is a key factor. Just feathering it out and around so it sort of blends in nicely with the previous poly that's still there. Now, I will be doing this area right here, not on video because this video is already long enough, and a few other areas. So if you're doing multiple areas in a room, you don't want to get that polyurethane on the scratched areas before the stain, because that's going to seal the scratch in the floor, which you don't want. So make sure when you're doing this that you're putting the stain first before the polyurethane. You don't want to get this polyurethane on, let's say, a different area over here off camera that I'm going to work on. If you look right over here, I'm going to work on this area next. I wouldn't want to put the polyurethane on here when I'm spreading it around because then that'll seal the scratch in the floor. And that's basically it. That is a simple way to fix hardwood floor scratches. It's not a perfect method by any means, but it definitely works. And when you're standing up, like, you won't notice these scratches that I fixed by any means. Even like with my face 4 or 5 feet away, it sort of just blends in. And that's basically it. If you have scratches in the floor, that's a simple, in hardwood floors, that's an easy and simple way to fix them. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Let me know what you think down below as a comment. And of course, be sure to subscribe for more great videos just like this one. And that's all I have for you today. Thanks for watching.